Ambassador, so a question is that whether culture and economy are interchangeable notions. So if I'm speaking of culture, I'm just trying to say that I have to be careful as an economist, because most economists probably don't see culture and economy to be exactly the same. But I'm starting to think, now culture, isn't that the platform upon which you run the economy? So when I look at the history of Western economic thought, and I read Aristotle, Max Weber, Karl Marx, John Rawls, Popper, Adam Smith, and I see that what they're looking at is how to run their economies, whether it be a theory of justice, legal systems, discipline, those kinds of things. The so-called Protestant work ethic, where the hard work was to be rewarded, it was a moral duty for you to work hard. And if you were lazy, it was a sin. So they built it even into their religion and their culture. So I'm just wondering, in Africa, do we have an equivalent way of approximating our culture with the economy?
Yeah, the problem is when we are talking about culture.
Yes.
The African culture today, what is it really?
Yes.
Is it the culture that was there before colonization came? Or is it the culture we have acquired? Mm. We now have a hybrid of culture. During the colonization period, for example, our brothers in the Francophone zone were taught about assimilation, where you are a black Frenchman by assimilation, by what you have assimilated from the French culture. Some of us also on the Anglophone side or the Lusophone side, we have acquired things. So it becomes difficult to say today, this is exactly what is African culture. But before we had that experience, we had our communalism, where we made provisions for both the strong and the weak, where we believe that all fingers cannot be equal. And so if you are the tallest finger of the hand in your family, you must take care of others. The people you are citing, we are not communalists. They are individualists. So I said we used to practice communalism, where you don't live for yourself alone, and we don't have a means of production that takes care of just one individual so that he can live comfortably alone with his dog and his cat. We are working for the community. Luckily, I can say that we still have that to a large extent. So if you ask the question, does culture promote economic development? On the African side, yes. How it creates that development is that you are taught by African culture to know that one man owns the cock, but the whole community owns the voice of the cock. So you cannot isolate yourself and say, I am well off, when other members of your community are not well off.
Do they teach us, does our culture teach us how to be well off?
Oh, sure.
As a community or as individuals?
Both as individuals and as a community. Mind you, like I said, we had a clash of cultures. We had a situation whereby if I was well off in the sense that I had a lot of farmlands and so on and so forth, the community could come and farm for me, and I would take care of people. Whatever they produced wasn't for me alone to consume. Widows, orphans, and less privileged people we are taken care of. And that was our own system of making sure that the collective welfare of the people was taken care of. And if after taking care of such people you saw anybody who went to steal, he could be lynched. Morality was embedded in the system. So we had an economy, we had a culture. This economy and culture came and clashed with the economy of the Max Webers and the Adam Smiths and so on and so forth. The economy of mass production.
Yes.
The economy of every individual should be taken care of by the general economy.
We have accepted and imbibed
yes, we have
cultures. Why? Is it, that's part of the subjugation of ours to theirs. Is it by force or was it voluntary?
We had no choice.
It was colonial dictation?
Yes, we had no choice. We had to imbibe.
Then when we gained independence, why didn't we then, because by that time we had been, should I say infected, we had been injected with that foreign type culture. Have we tried to, in your mind, do you see that we've tried to design and formulate a new kind of culture since we've accepted, look at me, I'm wearing a suit here, a Western suit. Since have we tried to formulate a type of thing that allows us to mix them and aggregate them and then define them as African? The Chinese have their culture, even though they wear a Western suit like this.
Good.
But do we have that type of thing?
This is what you call, or rather what the French would call, le problématique du problème. That is the problem within the problem.
Yes.
The problem within the problem is that we did not participate fully and actively in accepting that white culture you are talking about, imbibing it, and realizing independence together. Some of our brothers were selected and indoctrinated, and they became our leaders. Up till now, Africa is suffering from the problem of the people themselves accepting governance for what it is and participating in it. There's so much alienation all over Africa. So much alienation. That's why you see some people emerge now, people you didn't think could emerge as leaders, because the people felt alienated by those first people who received flag independence. Mind the word, my expression. Flag independence. We have now a flag that shows that we're independent. But in essence, we are not independent. Independent because we are still economically and, if you like, politically, indirectly politically dependent on our colonial masters.
What will make us really independent? Is it our culture?
Yeah. Our culture and our...
How will we do that?
Our participation in the governance process. The problem is all over the place today. You see a political party, a few people hijack it, and they go there, share the money on behalf of the people, and it doesn't get to the people. Unless people start getting involved, we can't convince them about what we're doing. We can't even convince them about our independence. We can't convince them about a new cultural economy. Because that's the word. I am happy you brought this up. Are you actually in making your culture get involved in your economy and producing an economy that takes care of your culture?
When I look at the West, or even from the Middle East, now parts of it, from where some of our religions come, I see them inventing things. I see them with innovations. I see all the equipment, the computers, the phones, and the things that we use come from there.
Exactly.
And we are not doing it.
Exactly.
And then as I said earlier, the so-called Protestant work ethic that we try to imbibe today was stressing hard work. So it seems to me that our religious leaders owe it to us a little bit to cause our people to pay more attention to hard work and to discipline.
You got a strong point there. I tell them that Israel is in the desert, practical desert. But if you see the irrigation they do, and they produce a lot of food from that desert. It's because they work hard.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they would have folded their arms and said, "We are God's chosen people. We will not work." But they work extra hard. Those of them who are nomads are still doing their nomadic work. Those who are tilling the desert and watering it by irrigation are still doing so. And I think God has given us a lot in terms of landmass, in terms of of human resources. We now have to use these human resources in this land and pray to the Almighty God to bless the work of our hands. And He will, because that is why He created us, so that we can work hard, survive, worship Him. He didn't create us just for worship alone. Our people are getting a wrong nation. As you said, the people we think are not praying are the people who are feeding us with all these gadgets. Because they even believe that to work is to pray. Because when you are working not for yourself alone. You are working to feed your mouth and so many other mouths. And you are feeding God's children.
Absolutely.
And teaching them also how to work.
Absolutely.
That's an important part of our culture that should help drive our economy. But if we just believe that, we are children of God and we can't work, we only have to pray, I'm afraid.
Ambassador, we will have to continue this discussion, perhaps on finer strands. We look at strands of development and culture and come back to it, because I think this is really important. And I really appreciate the great expertise you brought to the table on this. But I want to thank you so very much.
Well, I thank you too for ever thinking about it.
Thank you.
Because these are some of the things that have been missing in our national discourse.
Okay. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thanks so much.
Great job.